In thinking of an arts activity, we wanted to keep in mind ways to make it accessible, both financially and for seniors with different physical needs. Many of the seniors living in homes that I've worked with before sometimes have had previous strokes, limiting the movement that they have available to them. We also wanted the activity to be affordable, thinking of ways to reduce the cost of materials and prep. As a group, we brainstormed challenges that this population may face in an arts activity and eventually decided to explore collage. Collage felt easier for cleanup and having non-toxic materials to work with. To reduce costs, I experimented with foraging and pressing my own leaves and flowers for free, but eventually found cheap thrifted magazines to be the best fit for this specific activity. Collage can require a lot of dexterity, which can be challenging if you have limited fine motor movement. Aaron found a really great resource about tips for art therapy with seniors with dementia, which emphasized the importance of simplicity, not wanting to overwhelm the client, as well as offering assistance and even starting the activity for them to get things going. I wanted to practice what was at first our hypothetical art activity in real life with my adopted grandma, Obachan. Obachan lives in a government-funded nursing home. She has no family in the area, so when I have the chance, I go and I visit her. I brought her some flowers, and even with her limited mobility these days, she still wants to be of help. So she warmed up by picking the dead leaves off our bouquet before I went and I put them in some water. She's had a stroke in the past year and numerous falls. Some days are better than others, but she has limited movement in one side of her body and her dementia has been progressing more aggressively in the past few months. We used to go eat sushi together where she'd share stories about fishing and mushroom hunting. She has memories from World War II and living in Japan as a young woman. She curses like a sailor and used to take the bus to Goodwill every day, smoke a cig after every meal. She no longer remembers me the last few times I visited, but I think knowing her and knowing about her life helped me better cater the activity to meet her needs and connect to her memories. She loves to talk. Something I connected from the research we looked into was the importance of storytelling. For seniors, storytelling is especially important for overcoming loneliness and fostering connection. One downside of this activity is that it required a decent amount of prep time. To make the collage most accessible, I experimented with double-sided tape and glue tabs. First, I tried putting the tape down first so that we could just stick the images right on, but eventually found that creating my own sticker-like sheets with wax paper and glue tabs was the easiest and most simple way to prep everything before our activity, including, cutting out images beforehand as well. This way, I was able to hold up the pieces of wax paper with less images than magazines to be less overwhelming. This made it possible for us to slowly look at each image, and Obachan could point to the one she felt most interested in. I would help her peel them off the wax paper, and then we created the image together, taking turns sticking down the image to our prepped background. It took some time to get into, but as we went on and as she watched me also participate, we slowly began to create this story together in her image. I practiced the exercise with my mom beforehand. She is not quite a senior yet and does not often have the time to do creative activities. I asked my mom to create an image that represents her, and I was really shocked by the creativity and strong response that my mom had, letting the art tell a story of her life, from her different jobs to mourning the loss of my dad. In our chat after the collage, my mom and I talked about the ways that art allows us to channel the parts of ourselves that are harder to talk about. For Obachan, I kept the prompt super open-ended. Instead, I let the conversation that we had about each image lead the way for the focus of our collage. She ended up really loving this image of a geisha that I had cut out, and as we went through each page of images, she would pick out different images that connected back to the story of a geisha. Growing up in Japan, the images of the geisha, koi fish, and trees connected her back to stories of her childhood. Some I've heard before, but even new stories. The koi fish reminded her of a time when she was a child and her mom had a koi pond in her backyard. She told me she would jump in the pond and try to catch the fish, and so her mom would yell at her. It was really special to hear these new stories from her, since I'm not really sure how much time we'll have together. Even after we finished our collage, we continued to look at the images, letting each image spark conversation and bring back old memories. I left the collage in her room for her for later, since it seemed like the different images were a great tool for connecting her back to her stories and memories of the past. Overall, I felt like this activity was a great way to help her practice movement in her hands It gave her a sense of purpose since I was asking for her help in the task of creating, and it also served as a tool to prompt memory recollection and storytelling.